Hey there folks, John here for Biddy Kong's Quest, and today's video was actually inspired by the video that I did last week when I went to Digital Press Video Games and picked up some new stuff. Some of you guys who watched that video may remember that I got this copy of Defender, which, by the way, is a stellar game for the GameCube. You should definitely try it out if you've never tried it before. I think it's one of those ones that got swept under the radar because everybody just kind of assumed it was just a re-release of like the old arcade game Defender, which is not the case. It's a complete reimagining of it. If you want to know more about it, you can go watch that video, and I talked about it quite a bit. And also, Jay from Square Pegs actually covered this in a video earlier this week as well, after watching my video from last week, so it's this kind of whole chain thing going on. But anyways, this game I got from Digital Press Video Games, and you may have noticed that if you watch that video, that this thing is a little bit beat up. It's got some nicks here, it's got some tape here. It just kind of looks kind of grody, and then it's actually also in a rental case. And you know, in that video I found out that this was actually a Blockbuster rental case, and you guys know I love my Blockbuster stuff. I collect Blockbuster stuff. I'm on a quest to get all of the Blockbuster exclusive games for everything, and we've even got a history video coming out here at some point later this year. I'm not going to say that soon because there's a ton to cover about the history of the Blockbuster exclusives and how all that came about, and that is a fascinating story. I'm really excited about that one. But that's not really what we're here to talk about today. Today we're here to talk about one of my absolute favorite things to talk about, one of my passions and one of the reasons that I started this channel in the first place like 7 or 8 years ago, however long it was, and that is that I love ugly games. And one of the reasons that I started this channel was to kind of just teach people, or not even really teach, but just share what I do when I get games and I restore them. I like to get old systems, junk stuff, and I like to restore it, do new paint jobs on it, do whatever it is that I have to do to kind of give these games a new lease on life. And I think there's this mentality in the collector's market where people are afraid to buy ugly games. I love buying ugly games because I've said it many times before, and I will say it every video I can possibly get a chance to say it. Ugly games mean that they're games that have a story, and you can visibly see that story in that game. So, again, since that's a passion of mine since I started the channel, and I've kind of rebooted the channel in the last few months and really tried to get more and more content out there for a lot of new subscribers, which thank you everybody who's subscribed lately. I love seeing that number tick up. It's just always such a surprise and so cool to see that people are watching and enjoying what I'm doing. But it's one of those things where this was kind of the original thing that I started the channel for, and I wanted to do another video about old games and or not old games, but ugly games, and just how it's a good thing to buy ugly games, and you can honestly get some really, really awesome deals, especially if you're just starting out collecting and you're kind of gotten past that stage where you've gotten a lot of the commons and stuff like that, and you're kind of looking to get a little more specific in what you want. But retro game prices are just through the roof now, and it's absolutely bonkers what you have to pay to get some really, really good stuff. So this is kind of a video to give you guys some tips and kind of show you guys some of my ugly pickups, some of the games that I absolutely love that I have, that one, I got because they were ugly, or maybe they're a childhood copy. There's a couple of those in there as well, back when games weren't nearly as expensive, although they were still pretty expensive, especially if you were into JRPGs on like Super Nintendo. But this is a video to kind of share some of my ugly pickups and some of the reasons and the things that I do to get some of these games that I might not be able to get otherwise, and really just talk about some of my favorite pickups. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to head over to the workbench to do that, and I'll show you guys what I've got. Okay, so like I said in the video, this is the Defender that I picked up the other day. I did show it in the video, but I'll quickly run you through it real fast. So this, again, is an ugly game. It was only $10, so that's good, right? So $10, very fair price for a GameCube game, especially one like this. And then it's got the Blockbuster case, which is pretty sick. But that's about it for this one. We're not going to spend a ton of time on it. I'll go ahead and put this one to the side over here. And then let's talk now about some of the games that I've been able to get. bargains on because they've been cheap. Now these are Game Boy games. I'm going to do these ones last, mainly because they just sit here and prop stuff up like that, because if it's flat, see, I get reflections. So we're going to leave these ones for last, and I'll let you keep you guys in suspense. But these are great for popping things up. So this is a Vice Project Doom. If you don't know this game, this is a really, really fun, kind of like multi-genre game for the NES. You know, kind of one of those mid-tier games that ends up running like 30, 40 bucks sometimes, depending on what you get. I got this one on a really good deal from Southeast Game Exchange last year, and if you watched that video, you probably saw the negotiation where I picked this up. I actually was able to bundle this one with a couple other things, so that's another thing collecting. To save money, try to bundle as much as you can. If you go to cons, if you go to whatever, try to find a vendor that has multiple things that you want, and then see if they'll give you a deal if you buy multiple of them. I end up saving a lot of money this way, but I was able to save even more money on this one because of the condition it's in. You can see it's got some video rental stickers here, but you can see there's another kind of rental sticker here. It looks like maybe, see, this says 00185, that also says 0185. So whatever it is, the company that owned this probably marked it twice for whatever reason. You know, rental stores did weird things. Sometimes they even glued stuff shut. But, you know, it's got some label damage here. It's peeling up. But this is actually a really simple fix, because the best thing to use for this is rubber cement. And I don't have any here with me, but it comes in a jar. And if you just get a little bit of rubber cement and you get that right on the back of there, it won't discolor this label. Some glues and things will discolor the paper under here. And you can get it down super flat, and it'll look almost like it was brand new if you use rubber cement. So that's the way to do a label like this. But I love this kind of thing because now I can tell what store it came from, you know, and it's got some wear to it. It's got, again, a story to it. Now, there's nothing wrong with a pristine game, but I would consider something like this just as much of something to be collected as a pristine game, because I can see a history here. So anyway, Vice Project Doom, definitely worth checking out. Very fun game. Let's move on to something else. Now this is Lufia, The Legend Returns. If you've never played the Lufia series, it's an RPG series. If anybody's played Sea of Stars, which I am just now at the end of, and I'm super, super loving that game. It was influenced a lot by Chrono Trigger, but also there's a lot of components in there with some of the environmental puzzle solving and stuff that feels a little bit more like Lufia. And if you've ever played Golden Sun, again, Golden Sun was heavily inspired by Lufia, and specifically Lufia 2. The first one here is actually more of a traditional kind of just JRPG. It's not a bad one. Anyways, enough about gushing about Lufia. That's a whole nother video, and I could do this for hours. But the reason I got this one cheaper, because this is, I don't know, around an $80, $90, $100 game. I actually ended up getting a good deal on this one because it had writing on the back of it. You can't actually get something like this off of a label, probably, because it's Sharpie and it's on paper. However, if you have something, if you have a Sharpie on a game on plastic like this is the big old fat Sharpie that I used in the how to make your own retro game boxes video, which anyways, you can actually get Sharpie off of plastic with a dry erase marker. Now again, a lot of my cleaning stuff is packed up. Actually, let me see if I have something down here. Hold on. Okay, yeah, I actually do have a dry erase marker here. So this is a dry erase marker, something like that. I also found my rubber cement. I didn't realize that was down there, but the rubber cement I was talking about with Vice Project Doom here, this will fix that label, no problem. But here is the dry erase marker. Now, I'm going to take this Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles here, which I will talk about in a minute. There's a story to this one too. But we're going to take our Sharpie, big fat boy, and we're just going to make a big mark right there on that Ninja Turtles. Don't worry, this game is broken. It doesn't work. Spoilers for later. But now you can see I've got the Sharpie there, and it's smearing a little bit just because I haven't let it dry. But you can see it's not coming off. I'm sitting there rubbing it with my fingers. See, a little bit came off on my fingers right there. But see, it's not going anywhere. Now, if I take this dry erase marker and I just color over the Sharpie, you know, color over it nice and thick here, and then take it and I erase it. No more Sharpie. Now, obviously, I need to go over it with it a second time. I'm not going to, again, because this game doesn't work. But you can see it removed the Sharpie, no problem. If I did it a little bit more dry erase work on here, it would be completely gone. You would never know the difference. This is my magic secret weapon that I use to clean and restore so many games for people especially when I'm looking to sell something to somebody. You know, 9 times out of 10, people will choose to remove the Sharpie, whoever's name it is on there. This is the secret weapon for that. Dry erase marker, that's all you really need, and I think that that is a really, really good tip worth telling people. And honestly, you can save money if you're haggling. Be like, hey, this has a name on it. Can I get a couple dollars off? Knowing that you can then come in here and use a dry erase marker and fix that for yourself. So there you go. So that's one tip. Now, I did talk about Lufia 2. I think this is probably was my first experience with an ugly game, because I probably bought it, I think, with my money from working when I was in high school. You know, I absolutely loved this game before anybody really knew about it. I happened to rent it and fell in love with it. This game was foundational for me. But this is my childhood copy of Lufia 2. So this one's cool because it's got, you know, the manual here. And I think I have the maps. Maybe I don't. Yep, I do. So I've got the map. I think there actually is another map to this game, which I don't have. But, you know, it's you get what you get, and I don't try not to spend a ton of money if I don't have to, but there you go. So that's all the characters. Actually, not all the characters, but a bunch of the characters in Lufia. Again, I could go on about Lufia for forever, but this was my first ugly game because if you look right there, there is a label issue. And that's because I think this was probably an ex-rental. Now, when I got it, it was already used at Electronics Boutique, or maybe it was Babbage's. I think it was Babbage's. But you can see somebody peeled a rental sticker off of here before I ever got it, which is just a crying shame. I really wish that I still had this with the rental sticker. It still would have been worth less because it was, it's, you know, quote unquote damaged, but it would have at least had the rental sticker on it, which would have been really cool. And this was kind of a rare game. They didn't do a lot of prints of it, so this was the only one that I could find that was in my budget at the time as like a 14, 15-year-old. And you know what? I was a little annoyed that mine was kind of blemished as a kid. But I ended up spending so many hours in this game, I kind of learned to fall in love with it. And now I wouldn't want any other one. This one is mine, and it's clearly visibly mine. It's the one that I grew up with, and nobody could ever fake it. People have asked why I haven't replaced the label for this. It's because this one, this label is part of the story that this game has, and I really, really, really am happy to have it just like it is. And I think it's pretty darn cool. So another one that I wanted to talk about too is this boxed copy of Snake Rattle and Roll right here. Now, Snake Rattle and Roll, I've talked ad nauseum about this game. I'm not going to bore you guys with that. But when I first got this one actually had a gigantic, like, deal value sticker here. And this, Snake Rattle and Roll was my very first game that I ever got with my NES. And sometime when I was in high school, I came home and my mom had thrown away all of my boxes. That was one of the great tragedies of my life, right? Not really. There's much worse things that can happen, but still it sucked. So I really wanted a clean, boxed copy of Snake Rattle and Roll, just like that one that I had before my mom threw away the box. And so this one, it would be a good case of me kind of reclaiming a past thing in as good a condition, or in the condition that it was when I lost it. But how you can get some of these stickers off, especially the cardboard boxes, if you get a hairdryer. Now you can't get it too hot, but you just get it warm and you kind of get under there and you start just barely peeling it off. You'll find that the sticker will eventually come off, and then if you just let the sticky stuff dry, you can literally just kind of do this very lightly with your fingers, and a lot of times the adhesive will come off and you won't damage the box at all. And you can see this one I actually got really, really pristine, which was really cool. So that's the Snake Rattle and Roll one, and that's kind of my strategy for getting stickers off. Now, just to bring this back, because we were talking about it earlier, because I did use it as a demo, not every ugly game you get is going to turn out well for you. You need to make sure that you have them test it there, because you can see on this one, you can see it's got this like indent here and here. It kind of looks like sun damage, like it was left in the sun too long and it like melted in like a storage unit or something. So I actually got this game as a donor to make a repro for somebody. And again, this was years ago. Now you can just buy repro boards, but then you couldn't. So I'm like, well, it's ugly. I'm just going to use this as a donor and it'll be fine. Well, then I opened the sucker up and let's turn this over so you can see it. And this is what it looks like inside. So this was clearly a fire damaged game. Now, it took me a little while to figure out what it was. I think somebody probably plugged a bad power adapter in, and it just you know, fried the game itself. So there's a capacitor up here. See, I'm getting black on my fingers now. There's normally a capacitor up here. And again, I don't know enough about the inner workings of how NES PCBs work, but the capacitor, I think, probably went, and then everything down from it also went. So you can actually see this IC and this IC. This IC has a hole burned in it, and this IC is totally cracked. This one, obviously, there's no capacitor left there, and then this this chip right here, which I think is part of the mapper, it's completely fried as well, and then this one too. So really, it's just somebody put too much power into this thing somehow, and it just totally blew it up. So I keep this one because I think I spent like 10 bucks on it or something like that. It wasn't a terrible amount, but for a game that wasn't working, it was terrible. But just because it's a really cool piece to have in my collection, like, yeah, I got a game that literally caught on fire. It's pretty sick. And you can see where it just burnt through the ICs, and you know, you can see some smudging and some black back there. So this one's a really fun one. Just again as a talking point, because I mean, I didn't know they could catch on fire. Did you? I had no idea. So there you go. So that's that one. Poor Ninja Turtles. But hey, at least we can feature it in a YouTube video and give it a second life, right? Okay, now let's talk about some of the higher dollar value stuff. Maybe that's kind of fun. So let's talk about, like I said, I like to collect Blockbuster exclusives. Let's talk about those. So I have 3 of them here, and actually I lied. I have 2 Blockbuster exclusives at the table here. There's one that has a Blockbuster sticker as well that I'll talk about last. But this is Stunt Racer 64, and this is Indiana Jones in the Infernal Machine. These are 2 Blockbuster exclusives. I made a pickup video on this years ago where I found this at $6, or at Goodwill for $6. You can still see the, oh, there you go. It was October 24th, 2018 was when it was put in the store. So in October 2018, I found this for $6. This is a, this game has fluctuated over the years between $300 and $600. I think it's on the low end right now. But this one I got because it had sat in the Goodwill case for I think 2 days. I think I probably bought it on like 26th or 27th. And it was with some other N64 games that were all just racing games, and they all had like writing and stuff on them. So I think people were just like, whatever. And then I happened to see it, and I kind of only saw this much of it when I first saw it, and I was like, is that what I think it is? And then I looked, and I had them get it out, and it was. And I think everybody just ignored it because it was ugly. Which is just such a freaking shame, because this is, I mean, a really valuable game. And honestly, if you've never played this one, this is really good, especially once you get through the tutorial. The tutorial is a little long. But yeah, this was a really good find, and it was really just because, let me get you a closer look here, and it was really just because it was ugly. I think people ignored it, which it just flabbergasts me. It's crazy. And then on the back here, you've got Property of Blockbuster Video, this big old ugly, quote-unquote ugly sticker, and then you've got a big ugly rental sticker on the back of this one too. And the deal is, with these kinds of games, these kind of like rare, one-of-a-kind, you know, ones that really didn't have a lot of print runs that end up being very expensive. I also have a sculptor's cut that I got from my friend Jesse over at Retro Revelations, that also has a Blockbuster sticker on it. But you should never turn your nose up at a game that has a Blockbuster or a rental sticker on it. And now the reason why is because that is something that is very hard to fake. It's very difficult to fake something like this and actually have it look authentic because of all the imperfections, which actually lends credibility to the fact that this is a legit copy of the game. Repros are getting so good now that they can look almost exactly like the actual game. And some people who are very unscrupulous will actually rough up a game and rough up a label, even though it's a repro, just to convince you that it's real. This type of thing with the Blockbuster Video and this type of sticker and everything, very difficult to fake, especially because it's got this like whatever, I don't know what you would call it, this metallic tape on it. Very difficult to fake this stuff. So if you get into the kind of rabbit hole that I'm in, where you want to collect all the Blockbuster exclusives, which are traditionally very expensive games, but you don't want to do it with absolutely breaking your bank, this is such an important thing. Ugly games are your friend. Ugly games are the best thing ever, because you know you're getting a legit copy. And so I really love these games specifically. And again, my sculptor's cut, thank you so much, Jesse. I still have that. It's in a protective case still packed up, and otherwise I would show it. But these types of games, you want them to be ugly. You really kind of do. So these are the Blockbuster exclusive ones. You know, another one, real quick before I hit the Game Boy stuff. So this is a Game Boy also that I have. Now, I do custom Game Boys and things, so this is a, I call this my Dreamsicle Game Boy. It's got some fingerprints on it. You know, I actually used it as a player Game Boy for a while. I modified the battery, took the batteries out and put a rechargeable battery in here. This was one of my early mods, so you can see my hole here is not correct size for the charger, but it works. But anyway, so this was a junk Game Boy. I think I got it for like $4 at a game store because it was broken. It didn't work, and really all that was wrong with it was that the battery contacts were bad, and so I had to replace the battery contacts. And then I decided, you know what, let's go the whole way. It was also all gunked up and all kinds of other stuff, so I painted it, and yeah, it works. It looks really freaking good. You can see it's got a couple of nicks because, again, I did use this as a player Game Boy. This was not just a shelf piece. But yeah, so this is my Dreamsicle Game Boy. Again, it was old and busted and ugly. Fits in this category, which is why I'm including it in this video. I have a bunch of other systems too. If you guys really like this video, this is something that you want to see more of, I can kind of do another video where I show some of this kind of stuff as well. But yeah, I just wanted to, I felt like it was important to include this because this ugly games mentality doesn't just apply to games only. So now let's talk about the Game Boy stuff. So first, we'll talk about Lufia. Because again, apparently this is a pseudo Lufia video. I did not plan it that way, I promise. You probably can't see it because it's really hard to see. This is a really ugly version of Lufia: The Legend Returns for Game Boy Color. This is a very expensive game. I had been on the hunt for this one for years and years and years because this was the last game I needed to complete my Lufia collection, which again, obviously I'm a Lufia fan, and I just couldn't find it for a price that I was happy with. So I actually ended up settling for this ugly version of it. You know, this game is well over $100 most of the time, and I think I got it for like $45, something like that. And so it was totally worth it because, again, I was planning on playing it. If you're gonna just buying games to play them, and you want them in your collection to play them and have that physical version, there's nothing wrong with just getting an ugly game. The last two Game Boy games I want to talk about are actually the same game, and that is Mega Man 5. Now, when I bought this, I specifically remember the market price of this game when I bought it because it was about $165. The reason I remember that is because I saw a listing for two of these listed for $165. So I went in and I looked, and it's because these things were, again, ugly. Now, one of these kind of almost wants to work most of the time, and that's actually this one. And I think there's something wrong with the ROM IC. I've actually done a board transplant on this one, and it's really just the IC. It almost wants to work, and I think it's just on its last leg. But I love the GB Mega Man series, and at one point I decided, you know what, I'm gonna sell a bunch of my stuff, and I'm just gonna get all the GB Mega Mans before they're just impossible to find. And even at that point, this was still really expensive and it was really rich for my blood. So I found this deal. I believe that it was $165 for both of them, knowing that the one only kind of worked, it said in the listing, and the other one definitely worked. And I actually ended up combining the parts from both of them to make one nicer looking one, even though, you know, the label is still a little damaged here. But it's cool to me because this is an example of being able to get a little bit more value for money if you're willing to look and take an ugly game and maybe combine two ugly games to make one nicer looking game, just because this one has cracks in it. Like you can't actually insert this in a Game Boy. You would have to completely replace this shell because see that it's bent like that and it catches, and I'm not about to ruin one of my Game Boys putting this thing in there. But it's still really a fun thing to have two copies of Mega Man 5 because basically, you know, this one's an ugly game and then this one was basically free. And it was a fun project for me to try to fix it. And I actually learned a lot about Game Boy games and how, and late stage Game Boy games and how they're built by doing it. So this was a worthwhile thing for me. And I think it's really fun. So that's my two copies of Mega Man 5. Again, this one works, this one doesn't. I think they're both worthwhile, even though one of them is broken. And then my last one, I think I talked about this last year, but at one point I finally decided to sell some stuff and pick up my holy grail. Wacky Races was my holy grail for years, pretty much my entire collecting life until last year. And it's because I played this game once as a kid. I rented it once, loved it, and then the next time I went back to rent it, it was gone. They had sold it. It was not available at the Blockbuster anymore. And so I spent my entire life really kind of looking for this game because it's a wonderful game. It's such a fun cartoon platformer. I absolutely adore this game, but it's one of those ones that was worth it for me to have, but I still only had a certain amount of money. I could not pay market value for this thing. I could not. So after years and years and years of having this thing on my eBay watch list, I saw one go up and it had this label damage on it. You know, it looked like it was sun damage. It looked like there was a rental sticker peeled off, something like that. And it was a buy it now for pretty much market value, or it was a best offer. And so I was able to make an offer on this one and get it a decent amount less because of this label. And then the guy sent me another picture of the back of it just to make sure. And I realized what he thought was a bad thing. He thought that I was gonna want to pay less for it. I realized, no, this was a Blockbuster game, which I don't think I have to say anything more about Blockbuster games and my obsession with them. This was on a Blockbuster rental shelf, which was the very place that I ran into it the first time. Now, I'm not under the impression that this was my game. I don't think this was the one that I played as a kid because there was a lot of Blockbusters. This was a low print run game, but they still made thousands of them, and there's no way this was the one. However, this was a Blockbuster game, which is where I originally found it. So this is this, along with my Sculptor's Cut and a couple of my other things, and not even all of them are expensive, to be honest, is one of my most treasured games, just because this is the game that was my holy grail, and it in the condition from the place that I originally found it, and that was just so cool to me. So that said, I was able to pick up my holy grail and actually in a better condition for me personally than if I had looked for it pristine by looking for an ugly game, and it fulfilled something else. So this is a great example of why you look for ugly games. You just never know what you're going to find, and honestly, it's depressing looking for mint pristine stuff sometimes because some of it is just so out of reach. And yes, the collector, the hunter in me knows there's always that feeling where, oh yeah, I'm going to get that deal. I'm going to find that game. I'm going to be the one to get it. And you know what? You may get it, but at some point, if you want the game, it's probably better just to maybe make some concessions, get the game, and then if you find a better one down the road, trade up. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that too. Don't let ugly games scare you away from getting the game to play it and to really have it in the collection and have what you really want. Because we're kind of getting to the point, in my opinion, and this is just my opinion, where retro games are going to get harder and harder to find because they're breaking, because people are increasing the prices, because people are holding on to them now. They're not getting rid of them. The supply is getting less. So don't make the mistake of letting the perfect get in the way of the good. There's a lot of great games that are ugly, and I really hope that everybody kind of realizes that and realizes you can get some good deals. You can really fill out your collection with ugly games just like this. So we're going to go back over to the table and wrap this thing up, but I just wanted to share some of my ugly games with you guys and some of the things that are really important to me and really a collecting mentality that kind of informs everything I do. So let's go back to the chair. We'll wrap this thing up. All right, so those were a few of the ugly games and actually ugly consoles that I have. And I just wanted to share with you guys because, like I said, this is a passion of mine. I absolutely love trying to get ugly games and give them a new lease on life and give systems a new lease on life and really give them the appreciation that they deserve, because a lot of these things, they've got a story. They may have been through 1, 2, 3 owners. Maybe they were a rental store game. Maybe they were abandoned and left in a storage unit for years, and they're yellowed and they're gross and they're disgusting and everything else. Those games are just as good as the games that are in mint condition, especially if you collect to play. I'm kind of at a stage of my collecting where there's not a whole lot that I'm going to buy that I don't intend on playing or doing a video on, because I think the history or whatever it is fascinating, and I just think more people need to play it. And I think that's a really good place to be in as a collector, just because I don't really spend a lot of money on stuff that I don't really want to play. Now I do have my childhood NES collection, my childhood Super Nintendo stuff. I get lots. Sometimes there's nothing wrong with buying filler content for your collection, especially if you're building out a game room. I mean, that is a totally legit reason to buy kind of filler games that you may not necessarily intend on playing. But the problem for me is that video games, and retro gaming specifically, have gotten so expensive lately, I can't really justify buying filler anymore. And I think there's a lot of people that are in that place as well. So I just wanted to share my thoughts on this, because I think there is a real place for ugly games in your collection, in my collection, in anybody's collection, especially if you just want to play the games and you're just interested in what it is that they have to offer. So those are some of my pickups. Those are some of my thoughts on ugly games. Like I said, this is a passion of mine. It is not the last time we're going to talk about this, but I wanted to make a video on it because I haven't made an ugly game restoration video kind of thing in a really long time. And again, that was the reason that I started this channel. And it's just been so much fun to talk about it with all of you guys. We'll be back again. Thank you guys so much for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, do all that YouTube stuff, and I will see you all next time.